welcome back to my YouTube channel. So for today's video, yesterday I uploaded a video and it was the top 10 rap albums of the 1990s. My top 10 rap albums of the 1990s. So I kind of liked that whole format, if you will, of the top 10 list. So I was going to do like another rap-based top 10 album list, but it was basically just like kind of like stuff that I forgot yesterday, or maybe not the top 10 rap albums in the 1990s, but like top 10 rap albums of mine. Anyways, point is, I decided to go in a complete different direction with the top 10 list today, because one of my favorite things when I was a little kid, like when I was 6, 7, 8, I was obsessed with WWF wrestling. Obsessed with it. So I thought, hey, make a top 10 list of the 10 best WWF wrestlers of the 1980s. I figured that might hit a chord with some people because, hey man, I was so into it. So anyways, I'm going to do it the same way I did the list yesterday. I'm going to go backwards from number 10 to number 1. And then also I have some honorable mentions at the end. So okay, starting at number 10, from Cobb County, Georgia, I got the Big Boss Man. He used to dress up in a cop uniform, a corrections officer uniform, with the blue shirt. And he had the pants with the stripes, and he used to carry around like a big billy club like the cops do. And he used to come to the ring. He was like 6'6", like 300 pounds. He was a big dude. And he was a good wrestler, you know what I mean? I used to have his toy. He was one of my favorite, like the little hard plastic toys that came out in the late 80s, early 90s. He was definitely one of my favorites, you know what I mean? He was just, he was never like a WWF heavyweight champion, but he was like a good wrestler, you know what I mean? He was a fan favorite. Alright, so number 9, I got Jimmy Superfly Snuka. He was I believe Polynesian descent or Hawaiian or something like that. He used to wear the leopard skin, banana hammock Speedo type situation down there. And his finishing move was he'd get up on the top rope and he'd do this thing like this, and then he'd jump off and he'd do a body splash on somebody and then be done. That's it. Pin. 1, 2, 3. So he's number 9. Number 8. No, I was looking at a top 20 list of best wrestlers in the 1980s, and this guy was a number 14 or something. He was way up on the list. But this guy at number 8 on my list is the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And he was a villain, a heel, but still one of my favorite wrestlers because he was just such a bastard, you know. He had this guy Virgil, who was African American, but he was his servant, you know, his butler, but he was treated him like a servant, and he was always degrading him and being making him do things and just being rude. And his theme music was money, 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 and he'd always go, everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man, you know, and he'd be waving $100 bills in front of people's face. He was just such a jerk, dude, and man, it's so easy to hate him and so easy to dislike him. And you gotta have those guys. You gotta balance it out. You can't all be heroes and fan favorites. You gotta be a villain. But you can be a villain and still be a fan favorite. And everybody has their part to play, and he played that part beautifully. Okay, so excuse me. Number 8, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Number 7, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Ho! So every time he came to the ring, he'd have an American flag in one hand and a 2x4 in the other hand, and I don't know what the guy was a maniac. He had one eye looking this way, one eye looking the other way. But he was just again, another guy who was never a heavyweight champion, or I don't think he ever had any type of belt. But I mean, the fans loved him because he would get everybody hyped up. He was a maniac. He had the 2x4, you know. He's chanting USA. He's got the American flag. He's fighting some dude from Dayton, Ohio, but he's got the crowd booing him and chanting USA. I don't know, but this guy is amazing, you know. And me and all my friends used to be like, oh, you know, we love doing that. But the guy was awesome. He was a fan favorite. So that's number 7. Number 6, Andre the Giant from the French Alps. I don't know if he's actually from the French Alps, but that was his description on the back of his wrestling card and the toys and stuff. Every wrestler had a place of origin and backstory, you know. And Andre the Giant, not huge on personality. He was a pretty funny guy. Joe Rogan podcast, Jake the Snake Roberts is on it, and he's telling stories about Andre the Giant and stuff, and pretty funny guy, you know, and just the stories are pretty funny. That's a great interview, by the way. Just if you are a wrestling fan of that time, and to listen to Jake the Snake Roberts talk about other wrestlers of that time, so it's a great Joe Rogan podcast. But anyways, so Andre the Giant, 7'5", like 500 pounds, like a literal giant. Supposedly from the French Alps. He was the heavyweight champion, I believe. Nobody could really beat him and stuff like that. And then I remember in WrestleMania 3, Hulk Hogan body slammed him. First person to ever pick him up off the mat, picked him, body slammed him on the ground, like 500 pounds. Wow. And then, of course, he had his memorable, Andre the Giant has memorable part in The Princess Bride where everybody wanted a peanut. You know, me and my friends used to always think that was hilarious too. We used to love that. But so number 5 on the list is Rowdy Roddy Piper. This guy was a savage. He was nuts. Like he'd wear a kilt to the ring every time. He had the bagpipe music, and like I feel like Rowdy Piper was just down for a scrap. Like he was down to like if you want to fight him in the back alley after like the wrestling match, if you're a fan or whatever, he would fight you. On the Joe Rogan podcast, Jake the Snake's talking about one time how he put his snake Damien that he used to carry around with him. He put it on Piper during one of the matches, and Piper went back to the locker room after and got a handgun out of the locker and came and put it in Robert's face. Said, "You're gonna put that snake on me again? I'll kill you." And Snake was like, "Shit, dude, like you messing around." And people like legit scared of this guy. He was Rowdy Roddy Piper, like an animal. He guy is still a savage. He was in he like had some cameo appearance in Always Sunny in Philadelphia where he played like this old bum, like broken down wrestler, and just classic. If you know him and like are a fan of wrestling, and if you like that show, it's like just a classic episode. Number 4. Jake the Snake Roberts, who I was just talking about. Now, this guy walked the line between, like, fan favorite hero and villain, heel. You know, sometimes he would be just a straight-up villain and be doing, like, really heinous stuff to people. He'd bash, like, the Macho Man at, like, something I remember watching. I was like deep in some like WWF rabbit hole on YouTube, and I was watching. And I forgot, like I was like, wow, he was a bastard sometimes. Like they were doing some special thing for Miss Elizabeth, and Jake the Snake showed up out of nowhere and started bashing on Macho Man. But anyways, he's carrying around the bag with the snake Damien. It was like this like 10-foot long python, and after he'd DDT people, which was his finishing move. Every wrestler who had a finishing move, you know what I mean? He had to finish the guys off, not like that. Creeps, but like he will get him in the DDT and he hook him up in the headlock and he drop it down on him, and of course they're out cold every time, knocked out, they're not getting up, and then he goes and grabs the bag, picks up the bag, and he dumps the snake on him, and then they wake up like, oh my god, it's a 10-foot long python. You're like, they didn't know it was gonna happen ahead of time. But like I said, he was one of the most famous wrestlers of that time period, even though sometimes he's a villain, sometimes he's a hero, still a fan favorite. Number 3, from parts unknown, the Ultimate Warrior. This guy was a savage. This guy was like I said, every wrestler had a backstory. So this guy was from parts unknown. It's like this guy came out of like this like mountain that like spewed like lava and smoke and fire, and like from there the Warrior appeared, and he came to the WWF and he just started gorilla pressing people right over his head and out of the ring. This guy was on so much steroids, dude. He had like veins popping out of everywhere, like out of his earlobes and stuff. But he was savage. Like he had these like tassel things all on his arms. He had the boots with the tassels. He had the sick eye makeup, like face makeup, like the Warrior makeup. And then if he was like in a real tough match with like a real like high, end wrestling, not like one of those bums that he's just beating on like Saturday morning wrestling. If he was like fighting Hulk Hogan or the Macho Man, like he'd be getting beaten in the match, and then he'd like go somewhere and he'd channel in the inner warrior and start having some warrior trance, and then he'd be like picking people up over the head and throwing them, and like you couldn't hit him with a chair or a baseball bat or whatever. Like, oh, when you got in the warrior trance, forget about it. Number 2, this is getting tough here. Number 2 and number 1. Number 2 is my favorite kind of all-time wrestler, honestly. But number 1 as a kid was my favorite wrestler, hands down. So, number 2, favorite all-time wrestler. Well, actually, no. Wait a minute. I never even put the disclaimer in this video about Ric Flair being the best all-time wrestler. Not even just the 80s, but all-time. But he wrestled in the WCW, and I'm doing WWF. But I meant to put that in the beginning of the video. Like, Ric Flair is the the greatest. He's the GOAT. Let's just get that. So WWF, my favorite WWF wrestler, and who I dressed up as for Halloween like 4 years ago, and I wish I could get better with the video editing and upload the picture of myself with the costume on, because it's amazing. It's amazing. But the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Oh yeah! This guy was just great wrestler, you know what I mean? But what an entertainer. This guy was the best personality, like the best, like every interview you watch, if you go back on YouTube and stuff and watch old interviews that he did and like stuff, he always had like props with him. He was always doing some crazy stuff, saying some crazy stuff. Guy was probably high on so much cocaine, but like it was the 80s, so what, you know, whatever, dude. But anyways, so the Macho Man is number 2. But he's really my favorite wrestler, especially as an adult looking back. Like, guy was a man. But number 1 on the list, Hulk Hogan. Keep saying your prayers, eating your vitamins. My little Hulkamaniacs. What are you going to do when Hulkamania runs wild on you? Man, this guy was like a god to me when I was a kid. I'm telling you, when I was like 6, 7 years old, dude, I would have done anything that the Hulk Hogan told me to do. When I'm watching him on TV and somebody starts beating him and doing something wrong or cheating him or something, I want to jump through the TV and I want to do something about it, dude. It's like the Hulk was my hero. And his theme song, I am a real American, fight for the right of every. I will still listen to that to this day to get pumped up to go clamming, like to do whatever like I gotta do that I need to get pumped up. I'm gonna put that song on. I'm gonna get jacked up and I'm gonna be a real American. Okay, I'm gonna fight for my rights. But I gotta put him at number 1 because, like I said, I was obsessed, dude. Obsessed. You know, you get in the ring, rip your shirt off, and you just do to this side, that side, and you go all around the rings, and you go, oh, you know, you do the different flexes, and dude, come on. Looking back now, it's so hokey, but like for the time and the place and what they were trying to do, man, bravo, Vince McMahon. Guy's a genius, dude. Like, he hooked so many kids just like me, just come on, right in their father's wallets, you know? Oh my god, obsessed. So that's my top 10 list, like I said, working backwards from 10 to 1. So, I mean, if you disagree, leave comments. I'd love to hear what other people have to say about this, who your top 10 lists were, who your favorite wrestlers were, or what I didn't put in, or who I said wrong. Quick honorable mentions. I got Sergeant Slaughter. Kind of really doesn't really need an introduction. People didn't know who Sergeant Slaughter was. Iron Sheik, who is a classic personality. If you look him up and look interviews and stuff that he did, he's a very funny character. And actually, Hulk Hogan beat him to originally get the belt back in like 1982 or 1983 when I was like a baby. Tito Santana, who was like the premier Latino wrestler in the 1980s, 1990s. Big John Studd and Junkyard Dog, who were a little bit before my time. They're more early to mid 80s, but I used to have the big rubber wrestling toys before the little hard plastic ones that came out in the late 80s, early 90s. There was these big rubber ones, and I had both of those guys, and I remember they were really cool. I had like them two and Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan. I don't know how many they made or what other wrestlers. If people know that too, leave in the comments. But I remember Junkyard Dog had this big, huge, like, metal chain he used to bring, and he was just a pretty hard-looking dude. Coco Beware used to have the parrot and the feathers and, like, all these colorful outfits and stuff. I mean, he wasn't that great of a wrestler, but he was entertaining. Ravishing Rick Rude, he used to do, like, you know, the Ravishing Rick Rude dance, and all the kids would do it, and the parents yell, "Stop doing that dance!" And Boris Zukov, real name James Kirk Harrell, but he was an American guy pretending to be Russian. Get everybody pissed off because it was the Cold War in the 1980s, and everybody was like, "Get out of here, you commie!" And he'd be like, "Oh," in his fake Russian accent, so that was entertaining. And then the Brooklyn Brawler, he was one of these guys that would be on the Saturday morning wrestling, and he'd always get beat. He'd never win a match, but he was always there, and like it was just like these rotating doors of nobodies who would just like come in and get beat up by the big name wrestlers. But the Brooklyn Brawler was just always there, always getting beat. I don't think he ever won a match. But shout out to the Brooklyn Brawler because he was just always there. He was dressed like a bum, and I have a couple wrestling cards. Like, I don't know if I still have them, but I used to have them of the Brooklyn Brawler. So that's my video, top 10 wrestlers of WWF wrestlers of the 1980s. Again, if you like my content, hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll be coming up with some more videos very soon. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.